My name's Micah, I'm 32, and I used to think that family meant sacrifice. That if you gave enough, your time, your energy, your space, they'd see the effort. They'd appreciate it, maybe even return it. Turns out, I was painfully naive. It started after my dad had his second surgery, and the bills piled up faster than they could breathe. My mom was still working part-time at the library, but it barely covered groceries, let alone hospital bills. My younger brother, Kyle, 27 and somehow still convinced life owed him something, was in between projects, which was his code for sleeping in until noon and claiming he was starting a podcast. So I offered what I thought was a temporary solution. Just stay with me, I said one night after Mom broke down over the phone, whispering that their water had been shut off. You can use the guest room. It's not much, but it's warm. I'll cover things until you're back on your feet. She cried, thanked me like I'd handed her the moon. I told her not to worry. At first, I didn't. I had a stable remote job in cybersecurity, a decent two-bedroom apartment in a quiet complex, and more than enough savings to float them for a few months. I figured they'd chip in when they could. I was wrong. The first month, I let it go. Medical bills were still arriving. Kyle said he was building a content strategy, whatever that meant. I paid rent, internet, electricity, phone, gas, groceries, every line item. I bought Kyle new shoes because he said his soles were peeling, and you can't network at Starbucks with busted sneakers. I didn't argue. By the third month, I was hosting two grown adults who had contributed exactly $0 and had turned my home into a halfway house for excuses. I tried to maintain my routine, but I had to give up my office, my actual working space, so they'd have a proper room with a door. I moved my desk to the living room and shifted my sleep to the couch. I thought it would be temporary. But temporary stretched into permanence, and my patience stretched even thinner. They started acting like tenants. No, worse, like landlords. My living room became their shared command center. My TV, which I hadn't touched in weeks, now blared daytime court shows and reruns of Friends Kyle needed for creative inspiration. My fridge was always empty, not because I wasn't buying food, but because they assumed everything inside it belonged to them. They never asked. They never offered. Still, I didn't explode. I tried reasoning. Hey, I'd say, I just need the place quiet for my meetings tomorrow. Think we can keep it down in the morning? You're always so uptight, Kyle would mutter. It's not a hotel, I said once, more frustrated than I meant to sound. And that's when it shifted. One evening, I came home from running errands to find a pile of my work equipment, my second monitor, headset, and some notes stacked haphazardly on the kitchen counter. What happened to my stuff? I asked, blinking. Oh, Mom said, not even looking up from her tablet. We moved it. We needed more room in there. In my office? Kyle needed a quiet place to record, she said, like it was the most logical thing in the world. I just stood there. So you moved my work gear to give Kyle a podcast studio? Kyle rolled his eyes from the couch. You're always so dramatic. It's not like we broke anything. I didn't respond. I just quietly picked up my things and moved them to the dining table. The resentment built like slow dripping water on stone. It wasn't one single blow that cracked me. It was the dozens of tiny ones. I'd wake up to find the hot water gone. My favorite mug was chipped and discarded. My food labeled Micah's, "Don't eat," was still eaten. My meetings were interrupted by Kyle's yelling matches on Xbox. They didn't just ignore boundaries, they steamrolled them. The final crack came on a Thursday evening. I'd worked a 10-hour shift, barely taken a break, and all I wanted was a shower and a quiet dinner. But when I opened the door, I was hit with the smell of burnt popcorn, the sound of Kyle yelling at someone online, and a pile of dirty laundry on the floor next to the kitchen island. I stepped over it, walked to my room, only to find the door ajar and my personal journal lying open on the bed. I walked right back into the living room. Did someone go through my stuff? Kyle didn't look up. Your room's not yours anymore, man. You're in the living room now, remember? My mom chimed in from the hallway. Don't be so possessive, Micah. We're family. There's no mine and yours. Something in me snapped. I looked around at my own apartment, my name on the lease, my bank account drained by bills, my sleep disrupted, my sanity stretched, and I realized they didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource, a utility, and worse, one that was getting annoying. I tried, one last time, to be calm. Mom, Kyle, this isn't working. I've done what I can, but I need some privacy. Some help. I can't keep doing this. Silence. For a moment. Then Mom crossed her arms. If you don't like it, Micah, maybe you should leave. I just stood there, blinking. I'm sorry. Kyle scoffed from the couch. Yeah, seriously. This is our house now. Stop acting like you own everything. Our house. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't say another word. I just nodded. And that's when the plan started forming. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, my couch, in the living room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me, its blades clicking faintly like a metronome counting down the seconds until I snapped. But I didn't scream. I didn't break things. I just started making notes. Friday morning, I sent a quiet email to my leasing office. I knew the complex manager, Jody. She'd always been kind, and more importantly, she knew I'd been a good tenant. Rent was paid early every month. The place was spotless, and I never caused a scene. I asked her a simple question. Would I be allowed to issue a formal eviction if the other occupants weren't on the lease? Her reply came that afternoon. Absolutely. We can begin the process as early as Monday. Let me know if you want to proceed. I didn't reply right away. I needed to make sure. So that weekend, I took photos. The laundry left rotting on the floor. The spilled cereal that had crusted onto the carpet. The gaming console hooked into my TV with Kyle's name scrawled across the bottom in Sharpie. I even snapped a shot of the grocery receipt I'd paid for, again, with nothing reimbursed. That Sunday, while they were out at some networking brunch, Kyle dragged Mom to, I went into my bedroom. Yes, my bedroom, and started taking inventory. My spare credit card was missing. I had a sinking feeling and pulled up my account. Sure enough, there were 3 charges from that morning. One for $89 at a trendy brunch place, one at a gas station, and one for a clothing boutique Kyle had once whined about being too expensive for broke creatives. When they returned, laughing, arms full of bags, I didn't say a word. But something must have shown on my face, because Mom gave me a tired look and said, Micah, don't start. I just smiled. Was brunch good? Kyle shrugged. Yeah, we didn't get you anything. Didn't expect you to, I replied. That night, I moved my computer setup to a friend's place across town. I told them I'd be crashing there for a while, just in case things got ugly. I didn't want to be near the fallout. Monday morning, I filed the formal paperwork for eviction. It wasn't vindictive, it was legal, clean, respectful. I submitted everything. Proof of non-payment, violation of boundaries, unauthorized use of property. Jody emailed back within an hour. Documents approved. Serving notice on Friday. I let the week pass slowly. At home, nothing changed. The apartment was still chaos. My food kept disappearing. Kyle stayed up all night blasting music, and Mom kept blaming me for tension in the house. Thursday night, I stood at the kitchen counter, sipping water after another long day. Kyle walked in, arms crossed. You're walking around like you're better than us. This is a shared space, man. I looked at him, really looked at him. 5 days of stubble, designer shirt still tagged from that boutique. A smugness in his eyes that made my stomach twist. This is my home, I said calmly. Your guest's here. He smirked. Not for long. You're right, I said, then went to bed. Friday morning came. At 8:32 a.m., there was a knock on the door. I wasn't home, but my friend who lived in the building texted me a photo. A clipboard. An official-looking envelope. The eviction notice had been posted. The locks were scheduled to change that afternoon. I didn't go back to the apartment right away. I waited. I gave them space. I imagined the conversation that would unfold. Mom reading the paper with shaking hands. Kyle scoffing until he realized it was real. The clock ticking down. At 5 p.m., I returned with the locksmith. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. My heart thudded as I rounded the corner. The front door was wide open. Inside, the place was half empty. A few duffel bags sat by the couch. The rest was untouched. The locksmith looked at me. You sure? Do it, I said. He changed the lock in under 10 minutes. Click, turn, snap. By 5:15 p.m., the door was mine again. At 5:20 p.m., my phone rang. It was Mom. Micah, she said, her voice high and breathless. What is this? What is this? I said nothing. Just waited. You evicted your own family? Are you serious right now? You told me to leave, I said calmly. So I did. Legally. Permanently. You can't just do this. We don't have anywhere to go. Kyle's stuff is still inside. I left the bags on the lawn, I replied. You have until sunset. After that, the rest goes to storage. Silence. Then you're going to regret this. No, I said, and this time I really felt it in my chest. I regret letting it go this far. Then I hung up. But trust me, that wasn't the end of it. Not even close. I didn't check the security camera footage until the next morning. I'd installed a small one in the hallway months ago after a neighbor's bike was stolen. It was discreet, pointed at the front door, and mostly forgotten. But after the lock change and that call from my mother, I wanted to see what really happened when they realized they were no longer welcome. The video started at 3:47 p.m. Kyle came up the stairs first, earbuds in, coffee in hand, with that usual half-stumble he always had when he wasn't fully awake. He paused at the door, frowned, then reached for the handle, and it didn't turn. He knocked once, twice, then pounded. Still nothing. Mom joined him a minute later, carrying grocery bags. She seemed confused at first, then alarmed when Kyle showed her the paper taped beside the door. She read it, crumpled it, then whipped out her phone. That must have been when she called me. They paced. They argued. Kyle kicked the wall. Then the camera caught them picking through the duffel bags I'd left beside the stairwell. Bags packed with the essentials, clearly labeled, just like Jody from the leasing office had advised. At 5:32 p.m., a neighbor from the second floor passed them. You could hear him mutter a cautious, "Everything okay?" And my mom. She looked him dead in the eye and said, "Our son just kicked us out. After all we've done for him." I should have felt something. Guilt, sadness, doubt. But watching the footage, all I felt was relief. For the first time in months, I had space, physical and emotional. And I wasn't going to let them crawl back in. But of course, they didn't disappear quietly. That Sunday, I got a text from my aunt, my dad's sister. It read, "Your mom just showed up at church crying. Said you made them homeless. What's going on?" That was the start of it. Within 48 hours, the family group chat, which I had muted for months, was suddenly alive again. Pings and messages stacked up like falling dominoes. "Micah, this is your family. How could you? They're your parents. Kyle's looking for work. You've destroyed his chance at stability. We're disappointed in you." That last one was from my uncle, who once borrowed for $1,000 from me and never paid it back. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't respond. I left them on read. But then came the escalation. Late Monday night, I got a knock on the door. I checked the peephole, empty hallway. When I opened the door, I found a note taped to the frame. In messy, all-caps handwriting, "You'll need US someday." Underneath was a paper plate with cold spaghetti. A bizarre message, but I knew where it came from. My mother had once made the same meal the day I got accepted to university. It was a dig, a threat, a twisted reminder. That week, they tried everything. Kyle posted a vague sob story on Facebook, something about being betrayed by blood and how people change when they get money. He got likes, sympathy. A few distant relatives commented, "Hope you're okay." Someone started a GoFundMe. I didn't say a word. Instead, I printed out the Facebook post and added it to the small folder I'd started compiling, just in case they ever tried to retaliate legally or smear my name in any official capacity. Then I froze the spare card, canceled it entirely, closed the joint utility account my mom had insisted I add her to just in case. I rerouted all mail to a P.O. box, changed the garage code, changed the Wi-Fi password, changed my peace of mind. By Wednesday, the house was cleaner, quieter. I slept in my bed again. My office, my actual workspace, was restored. The couch, once my temporary bed, was finally just a couch. I sat there, sipping coffee, sunlight pouring in from the window, and I felt a stillness I hadn't known in over a year. And that's when my dad showed up. It was Thursday morning. I opened the door expecting a delivery, and there he was, standing in the hallway like a ghost from a life I'd just buried. "Micah," he said softly, "can we talk?" He looked smaller somehow. Not sick, just defeated. A man stripped of all pretense. I didn't answer, just stepped aside, letting the door stay half-closed between us. "I don't agree with everything your mom said," he added, "or Kyle, but you didn't have to humiliate us." I raised an eyebrow. "I didn't humiliate you. I protected myself." "We didn't ask for that much," he muttered. "You didn't have to ask," I shot back. "You just took. For months. I gave you a place to recover. You turned it into a free ride." He didn't deny it, just stared at the floor. "I want to fix things," he said after a pause. "I want us to be a family again." There it was. The guilt hook. The soft lure. The rope they always dangled when things didn't go their way. I didn't bite. You let them treat me like I was nothing in my own home, I said quietly. You stood there when Kyle said it was his house now. You said nothing. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked older by the second. I'm not angry, I added, but I'm done. And then I closed the door. But even then, the drama wasn't over. Because the very next day, Kyle decided to escalate things in the dumbest, most entitled way possible, and it nearly cost him more than just a place to sleep. He came back the next evening. I had just finished a late call for work when I heard it, the sound of a key turning in the front door. At first, I froze, unsure if I imagined it. But then I heard it again, harder this time. A low mutter followed, then a sharp clang as the key hit the metal plate and failed. I stood up slowly. It was Kyle. I opened the door a crack, just enough to see him jiggling the knob with both hands like it owed him something. His eyes were bloodshot, his hoodie pulled low over his face, and he looked furious. You changed the locks, he said flatly. That's what eviction means, I replied. You don't live here. You can't just kick me out like I'm a stranger, he snapped. This is my family's house too. No, I said, keeping my voice steady. This is my house, my lease, my bills, my name. You never even paid for the toilet paper. His jaw twitched. You're lucky I didn't call the cops. I laughed once, bitter and sharp. I'm lucky. That's when he pushed the door. I slammed it shut. It bounced once under the pressure, and I heard him curse under his breath. Then came the banging. Loud, hard, the kind you feel in your chest. You're a selfish, pathetic excuse for a brother, he shouted. I gave you years of loyalty, and you can't even give me a roof. You gave me nothing, I said through the door. You took, and I let you. That's on me. But not anymore. More banging. Then silence. I waited. After 5 minutes, I peeked through the peephole. Gone. For a second, I exhaled. But I should have known better. Because Kyle didn't leave to cool down. He left to plot. At 2:12 a.m., my phone buzzed with an alert from my security camera. Motion detected at front door. I opened the feed, and there he was, crouched low, hoodie up, fumbling with what looked like a lockpick set. He was breaking in. I didn't panic. I called the police immediately, told them the situation, sent over the camera footage, and gave them his full name. They said an officer was en route. While I waited, I stood in the kitchen, one hand holding my phone, the other gripping a metal baseball bat I kept under the sink. I'd never used it before. Never thought I'd need to. The footage showed him trying again and again, growing more frustrated, muttering curses under his breath. Then he pulled out something from his pocket. A screwdriver, maybe? I couldn't tell. He jabbed it at the lock. 10 minutes later, the red and blue lights washed over the hallway. The officers arrived fast. Calm, direct, professional. They caught him still fiddling with the door, tried to question him, but Kyle started yelling about his rights and how I was a traitor to the family. They arrested him on the spot. Attempted unlawful entry. Possession of burglary tools. As they led him away, one of the officers turned to me and said, "If he shows up again, get a restraining order." People like this, they don't stop until the law makes them. I nodded. And that's exactly what I did. The court date was humiliating, for him, not me. I showed up in a button-up and slacks with my folder of evidence. Kyle came in wrinkled sweats, fidgeting, hair messy, clearly not expecting real consequences. The judge reviewed the footage, my report, the eviction notice, and the police file. Her verdict was swift. Temporary restraining order granted. Permanent review scheduled. He wasn't allowed within 200 feet of me or the apartment. After the hearing, Kyle didn't even look at me, just shuffled out of the room like a defeated child. I thought that would be the last I'd hear of him. But the fallout? That was just beginning. Because without me funding their lives, reality came crashing down fast. My mom called once, just once, begging me to drop the charges. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. Her message started with fake calm. "Micah, sweetheart, this has gone too far." Then desperation. "He's your brother." Then guilt. "I raised you better than this." Then the final blow. "You'll regret doing this to us." I saved the voicemail. Didn't reply. Within weeks, the GoFundMe Kyle had launched dried up. Turns out, once people realized he was being evicted legally by the person who had housed him for months, sympathy faded fast. The post disappeared quietly one night. I got a text from a cousin I barely knew. "Just saw your mom and Kyle at the shelter downtown. Didn't know it was this bad." I didn't reply, but I did feel something. Not guilt. Not satisfaction. Clarity. Because in all those years, they never once asked how I was doing. Not when I worked weekends to cover their bills. Not when I skipped my own birthday to pay down their credit card debt. Not when I gave up my bed, my office, my life. To them, I was a couch with a wallet, a doormat with a door. And once I stood up, they called it betrayal. A month after the restraining order was granted, I took a long walk through the city. It was raining, light but steady, and the streets smelled like warm concrete and wet leaves. I stopped at a cafe, sat by the window, and watched strangers pass by. There, in that quiet moment, I wrote a letter. Not to my family, not to Kyle, to myself. A reminder that love doesn't mean surrender. That sacrifice without respect is just exploitation. And that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from the people who keep cutting you open just to watch you bleed. I still have the letter. It's in a drawer in my new office. And yes, my office is mine again. Clean, organized, peaceful. I bought a new couch too. No one sleeps on it but me.